What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Before we get into these revenge stories that I've got for you today, and let me just say, I've got two. The second one is absolutely ridiculous. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. The first one's not bad either, by the way. A bit more of a typical revenge story, but the revenge is so sweet. The second is just crazy. First of all, I do want to say thank you very much for the response to yesterday's episode. The comments were great. You guys all understood, so I appreciate what you had to say on that. And I hope I made things a little bit more clearer going forward so you understand the rationale behind why I'm posting certain videos and certain episodes. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into these revenge stories. Stay tuned for the second one. Please, don't miss it. But here's the first. You want special treatment? I would love to. Buckle up, this is a long one. Once upon the before time in 2015, I worked my way through nursing school as a waitress in a restaurant. This restaurant did not advertise, they prided themselves on word of mouth for their popularity. That's important. I'd been there for several months at this point, and I'd proved myself reliable and knowledgeable enough to help train new waiters. Not technically a trainer, but I could be relied upon to support new workers once the trainers set them loose. We had one older guy who had just been released. He was a little awkward, a little shy, and worried about mistakes, absolutely expected, and he was great to work with. On the night of our tale, he was in the section next to mine, easy to keep an eye on, and easy to hop in and prop him up when he hit the weeds. This was his first night with his own complete section. Weeds would be abound. I was ready. What he wasn't ready for was his first demanding round table of about 6 people, 20-somethings, with attitude. Oh, instantly I've just got a bad taste in my mouth about these people, goodness me. He came to me worried and confused. They want XYZ, but I don't think that's on our menu, right? She says we have the ingredients and just make it, that the other location makes it all the time. Yeah, I could have taught him to stand his ground, but nerves and first night with your own section isn't the time for this to go over well, so I told him to ask the backline and see if they were willing. If not, I would talk to the table. The cooks were fine with it. Basically a wrap if I remember correctly, so no problem from our end. This was apparently the cue for the leader of the table to demand something every time he came to their table. As soon as he brought the last requested item, she needed something else. I thought it was possible, and I've been keeping an eye on him. Seeing his panic face, I gave him a nod and started checking in on his other tables, slotting them into my own table cycles. The reasons I'm paired with him. This carried on for their entire meal, incredibly needy and demanding his full attention with zero apology or kindness. I made sure to catch him in the back to prepare for possibly getting no tip, but to calm the panic, and to remind him I would not be touching the tips from his other tables. Honestly, this poor guy looked like he was about to quit on the spot. This leader was rude and impatient and gave him no space to breathe. I was his emotional support animal at this point. But knowing he was at least twice my age made it even worse for him. The table had come in close to the end of the night and ended up staying past our section's closing, so they were the last table on our side of the restaurant. Perks of closing with a new waiter, getting cut early. That's when he came to me asking how to do an employee discount, and they wanted to use more than one on a single ticket. Was that okay? I was confused. Wait, employee? That's when he shared that she had spent the entire meal berating and making fun of him because 1, she was a trainer at our other location, and 2, he was the worst waiter she had ever seen. No wonder the other location made her special meals, and zero surprise he was such a wreck. On top of that, she was claiming there were multiple birthdays in the group, so free cakes all around, and she wants the birthday song immediately. To say I was livid is saying lava is warm. I was ready to throw hands for this poor man. Instead, I told him to prep the cakes, but don't go out yet. I'd get the boss about the employee discount. Not needed, we could do it ourselves, but this was such a special case, and I would gather the workers for the birthday song. The managers there were absolutely amazing. We loved each one, and all of them had our backs. Very rare in restaurants, so that's almost the best part. I gave the front-end boss a quick rundown of the table's antics. Remember the word-of-mouth restaurant mentality? Yeah, the boss was not having a restaurant employee acting so cruelly, even if she wasn't his employee. I asked permission for what I wanted to do. He smiled and gave permission, as he grabbed the employee numbers given for the discounts, which that trainer would have known could not be stacked, and told me he had a boss-to-boss phone call to make. I then ran to every employee I could grab. Remember, half the restaurant was closing down, so we had several people available, including a dishwasher, and I gave them each the fastest explanation of the table and the plan. And then I told the poor, nerve-wracked server that we were ready to drop cakes. The crowd that arrived at that 6-person tabletop was honestly the largest we'd ever had for a birthday song, and I'm pretty confident the largest that restaurant will ever have. We served free cakes in front of every seat, and the leader had the most self-satisfied smirk as we all grinned ecstatically and lined up to sing. And oh, did we sing! We all sang that birthday song as loud as possible. Please do recall they were the last table in the section, and for your imaginings, I should mention this table was in the corner as well. So while we were screaming the birthday song, it was bouncing back from that corner as well, and it was an excruciatingly long song. Their smiles dropped immediately, and hands covered their ears as they jumped with the audio onslaught. I know it hurt my ears, and that pain is something that still makes me smile to this day. We all stood there, a giant group, happily screaming our restaurant's special happy birthday song, and it still warms my heart a decade later. More than that, while we were gathering and planning and destroying eardrums, our boss was making phone calls in the office. Yeah, he called her restaurant manager and informed them of her behaviour. And no, she didn't get stacked employee discounts. She didn't get her discounts at all. I know because I was there when she was handed the phone from my front-end manager at the host desk, and when she started to cry and tried to make her excuses for why she shouldn't be fired. But the general manager, one step below owner, since this was a small company with very few locations, had already been called, her employee number had been shared, and she was done. I'm not psychic. She could have gone back to her home location and convinced someone to hire her back. Anything is possible, but I know how she treated this poor guy. I know how I told the tale to my boss, and I know the quiet rage he so rarely touched when it was rage. I would have almost given up joining in that screaming song to be able to hear those phone calls. Almost. Okay, and there we go. That is the end of the first story. Remember, the second one is coming up and it's absolutely insane. But first of all, I want to give my thoughts on this. There's nothing that I hate more than just entitled people. This is a nice mix of a really entitled person trying to flex, trying to use the fact that they work at the same restaurant, you know, a different one, but the same overall brand, the same name, and just making someone's life a misery for no real reason other than to make themselves feel better and show off to their friends. And that sort of person doesn't deserve to work at a restaurant like this. And the fact that the management moved so quickly to get rid of them is so good. I really hope, by the way, that the new waiter understood the situation and you explained it to him and supported him as you did, clearly, and didn't leave after that. Because I can imagine you'd be like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. This is absolutely terrible dealing with people like that. So I hope, and it sounds like that didn't happen, which is great. But yeah, the fact that she's gone now, so good. I don't even really care what happened after that. Just that moment of screaming at her happy birthday, and then minutes later, her being told by her boss, you're fired. Oh, unbelievable. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the second story, which I've warned you guys about. It's nuts. The story when me and my ex-girlfriend tricked an internet creep into snorting baking soda. This is my first post on this subreddit. I really hope you agree that this is pro-revenge material and that you enjoy it. It's a long ride, but I hope you'll find it worth the read. First off, the backstory. This took place in the early days of the interwebs, around the autumn of 1999, when HTML-coded chats became very popular. For you young'uns, these spaces would be considered a pinnacle of free online speech today, as they were 100% unmoderated and they didn't log any personal data, or that you registered an account. It was extremely basic to use, as you just had to write what your session screen name was, and that was it. So anyone who wanted to be a creep, abusive, or toxic could do this without any real-life consequence, which led to a lot of unwanted contacts. Their MO was basically to use the whisper function, aka old school DM, where you still wrote in the group chat, but only the recipient could see it. Especially girls and young women were targeted, and although these chats didn't support any images, it was pretty common to exchange email addresses to keep in touch. So, lo and behold, the low pixel DPic was received. This meant that we users needed to figure out ways to self-moderate the chats. The most common way to protect ourselves was to create online communities on a separate website, often using the name of the particular chat room where you hanged out. Ours was named The Attic, for example. As this was before the use of registration, a membership would be granted if you were active and endorsed by another member. We had member lists containing our nicknames, a bulletin where we warned about known creeps, lists on how to behave, early netiquette, and other ways to support each other. An example on how we could make a creep leave the chat was to coordinate in the chat and send hundreds of whisper messages using Control Paste, flooding their screen with walls of repetitive text that only they could see. 95% of the creeps gave up as their connection would suffer. Our attic was known as the safest place among these chat rooms. Some creeps, though, were a bit more slippery and still managed to trick victims to share personal info. So it was a constant battle to come up with new, different, and often very creative and funny ways to combat these creeps. Now, let me present the actors in this story. I was a 20-year-old man, and I met my then girlfriend, who was 21, through a physical meetup that was organised by this specific community. We'd meet up once or twice per year, travelling from all over the country, just to meet up and then hang around for a weekend, partying or doing fun stuff at amusement parks or other places. My girlfriend was one of the first members in this community and was a well-known user in the chat for being really tough and creative when dealing with creeps. A standing joke was that she was more evil than the devil. Now for the pro-revenge part. The creep in question, let's call him Farmer Bob, was one of the creeps who was a bit slippery. He managed to become a member without any of us suspecting a thing. His creepiness was very low-key, and only after some of the younger members started to report getting emails and unwanted messages did me and my girlfriend decide to act. We started out by her pretending to be a naive and new user, and we managed to get him interested. After some back and forth, we managed to get some basic info about him and even some personal info. For example, we learned that he was living in the rural areas of the country, and he claimed to be wealthy as he owned a cattle farm, hence Farmer Bob. We soon realised that he was extremely stupid, seeming to be lacking in both social skills and basic education. He bragged about always wearing wooden shoes and how the females loved to be effed by him while wearing them. What sort of thing is that to brag about? What the heck? After some more back and forth, my girlfriend got bored and decided to just F it. Let's just go all in. So, my girlfriend pretended to be interested in maybe hooking up, but only if he could offer some cocaine, as it always made her super horny. To our surprise, he took the bait and that he couldn't afford it, despite bragging about being a wealthy cattle farmer just an hour earlier. He also slipped by telling her that his parents would be out of town the coming weekend. The dude literally forgot that he'd claimed to be the owner of the farm. Anyway, my girlfriend felt that she just wanted to exaggerate the heck out of him, and she wrote something like this. But Farmer Bob, didn't you know that if you mix 3 parts baking soda with 1 part vanilla sugar, then you'd get a rush equal to a cocaine rush, but with a nice aftertaste? It's always way cheaper. We thought this was so over the top that the game would be up and that he'd finally realised that my girlfriend was just trolling by now. Instead though, he told us that he had, quote, forgotten about that DIY cocaine trick and thanked my girlfriend for reminding him about it. Goodness me, I mean, imagine that worked. That would really hurt the drug industry quite severely. My girlfriend convinced him that he had to be sure to make a batch before she booked a train ticket, and he had to make sure it was of good quality. He promised her that he'd make a batch right away and try it out later that evening, and we logged out. Fast forward a couple of days, believing him to have realised that my girlfriend had been trolling him, we got an email written in all caps. It was something like, "You made my nose bleed, you mother frickin' female dog. I had to visit a clinic because of you," etc. He was so furious and accused her of tricking him. No trash, Sherlock. But wait, my fellow Redditors, this wasn't even the best part. We not only managed to somehow convince him that he must have gotten the mix wrong, we made an outlandish claim that she used this DIY nose candy all the time in her side gig, which was to produce and star in German amateur spanking prawn films that she sold to tourists from all over Europe. To prove this, we recorded an extremely stupid and blatantly obvious fake trailer for our big hit, Spankin' Mine... Scheisse? Oh, wow. Spanking mine shizer. I mean, that is just incredible. So the scene is her bed, her brother, pretending to be a random dude, sitting there with his friend laying on his stomach over his lap, both fully dressed, and pretending to be my girlfriend as he had long curly hair. Using a wooden spatula, he simulated spanking him while I stood behind the camera, clapping wet hands to create a sloppy spanking. To top it off, me and my girlfriend shouted German-sounding nonsense and they mimed their mouths. The quality of the video was horrendous, but the low resolution and frame rate actually created a believable trailer. It was still extremely silly and over the top, and should have been apparently fake to everyone. Not to Farmer Bob though. He was totally convinced this was the genuine thing and begged us to sell him some films. We agreed to do so, but only if he tried the homemade cocaine again. We never heard from him again after that. I'm guessing he finally realized it was all fake. He might have kept creeping in the chat room, but using another name. We never got another report with his email though. And yes, this is a true story. The trailer was unfortunately on an external hard drive that broke 7 years ago. I hope to be able to extract it someday, but until then, you have my word of honor that this is a true story. Unbelievable. Now, you guys may not know this, but one major part of what I need to do every time I want to record one of these episodes and find, good stories, good enough stories, believable stories for you guys is sift through a lot of posts on Reddit, because especially on revenge subreddits, there are loads of stories that they're not like obviously fake, a lot of them, but they just have some fallacies, I suppose. They have some parts of them that I just don't think are real, and it sort of makes me question the entire story, and therefore I don't think they're good enough for you guys to listen to. There are obviously as well some extremely fake stories that are just obviously fake from the beginning that I can tell very quickly they're fake. Now I say this because this story is so obviously not fake to me. Some stories are so outlandish and so ridiculous and so original in what happens in them that they literally can't be fake. And this is one of those stories. Like, it's so ridiculous. I've never even read anything like this. That's how I know it's real. I mean, it's also very well written and very plausible, I suppose. But it's very plausible because it sounds so crazy. Sometimes, like, stories that sound, in theory, more believable are actually more obviously fake to me because there are, like, little things that are wrong with them and some things don't add up. This, you don't even need to say that it's real, OP. And I don't even need your word. I just believe you wholeheartedly. Phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. What a wonderful trip that was down memory lane. Not really for me, to be fair. This was before my time on the internet. But, God, if you think that the internet now is bad, I can't imagine what it was like without any moderation. I mean, look, we all know what's going on X right now with the AI images and stuff like that. That's pretty terrible. But I can't imagine like how creepy it must have been on the internet. I mean, it's bad now, but back in the 90s when there was no moderation, probably not that many laws as well, and stuff like this was going on, goodness me, we needed more people like you and your ex-girlfriend, OP, to deal with creeps like that. That is insane. You must have thought when you were filming that fake trailer, what am I doing with my life? This is just ridiculous, outlandish, mental, ludicrous, but so good, so funny. And most importantly, it works so well. So well done to you. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode. 2 very fun stories there, if you ask me. That second one, just insane. Let me know your thoughts on them, as always, down below in the comments. If you want some more right away, check out this on screen. And I will catch you very soon with some more mental Reddit stories just like that.